short um, partner relationship, then we also need to know if this also affects or have consequences for younger ones, and that is the motivation behind this studying this. Yeah.
I'm curious, is there a difference between political violence and other kinds of violence? Because, some would say violence is violence, but you particularly looked at political violence. Is there something unique there that has its own consequences?
Yes, by the definition of the political violence, it includes it's of violence, political violence by a group to advance political purpose or motivation. So the ACLED data we use, that is the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Set, already categorize what is called political violence, and that is uh, uh, violence against civilians. We have riot as well, and explosion, and also uh, like strike. So those are, are what are actually known as political violence, and that exclude protest, which is non-violence conflict. So so what we did is to count this number of violence in the countries, 9 countries that we use over this long period of time. That is 15 years, and that is what we have for in our results, and that shows that the exposure for this longer period of time actually increases the risk of experiencing violence against children in these spaces that I've mentioned.
Your study looks at 9 different African countries. Political violence is political violence, but each country does certainly have its own uniqueness and nuances. Did your findings come up with the same results that, generally speaking, political violence causes generally these kinds of consequences?
So what we did was we aggregated, pulled these 9 countries together uh, to have overview of African how this political violence shape violence in among African children. Now we're able to pull about 35,000 young people that responded to that questionnaire, and this also means that we are looking at these children as a whole, not looking at in country specific. That would be another study. But what we did to make sure that we have comparable results is that we standardize this country by population, and use we also control for this country differences within the country, economic differences, political differences, by using what we call country fixed effects, and that's bring all the countries into the same scale.
And interesting as well is that there was a difference between short term and long term. And it seems as if the longer it goes on, the worse the consequences.
Yes, exactly. That's even surprising, but I would say not again, because that means that uh, long-term exposure to political violence leaves residues that leave, um, with the families, with the community long after um, the violence stopped. And this we can trace it from trauma by parents, and also destruction of household properties, household assets, which also may never recover from, and also the psychological effects thereafter. And this can also lead to more perpetration of violence into more into next generation, even after the violence has passed.
Some people might be wondering, how do you make the link, though, between political violence with later experiences of abuse among children and young people?
Yes, so we that speak to our methodology actually. So this also survey that we use, which is the violence against children and youth survey, we match that with another survey, geospatial survey, that is the armed conflict location and event data set, uh, which cover Africa up to back to 1997. So we are able to aggregate events to a year before that survey. That ensures that the events, the political violence events, predates the experience of uh, violence, be it emotional violence, physical violence, or sexual violence.
Is it your view, based on the research that you've done, is that the authorities haven't been making this connection up until now, that long term political violence has this effect on young people?
Yes, I will say yes. What was before this, our study, is evidence of uh, political violence, increasing the risk of intimate partner violence, and that is for adults. But not such has been done for younger people, and that is what we did. Because if the evidence exists for adults, then we also need to look at younger people, especially they are also more vulnerable, and the space for reporting may not be also there for them. So what has been done again is the violence against children in the context of political violence, in the context of conflict, but not specifically looking at measuring the relationship as we've done, and also to this scale, our 9 countries, which made about 30% of sub-Saharan African countries.
Um, Based on your findings, then, what practical steps do you think the governments and communities can take to reduce long term impacts on political violence on children?
Yes, that's a good question. So I would say first, child protection has to be built into conflict response. Program focusing on safety from harm group also need to address safety inside home, schools, and relationships. This include mental health and psychosocial support for parents, for families, for teachers, and even for young people themselves. And this, you agree that Africa has not done much about mental health and social support in relation to the scale of violence that has occurred in the recent years. So this is one aspect that uh, government should look into. Then for adult distress to be ignored means we risk passing violence to the next generation. And I will also say that because from our findings, we can say that poverty also matters. So in that sense, social protection can actually be doing more than what they get credit for. More than welfare is actually violence prevention. So government should do more in terms of social protection. Then, political history needs to be taken seriously, and that's the last point I will make. Not only looking at the immediate consequences, humanitarian support, or the focusing only on the internally displaced population, but also homes, schools, communities, where this the residue effect of violence remains. And so any child protection resources needs to take all this into consideration.
I'm just wondering about uh, diagnosis. Is it? It must be quite difficult to. You've made the link, but then when you see the symptoms, is it? Are you able to chunk back and say, "Oh, right, okay. Chances are what you're feeling is because of X, Y, Z."
Yes, the instruments that were used to capture this are specific questions, and the we just took it the way they were asked from um, the respondents. So what I can say is that um, the aspect of designing the questionnaire to understand, to suggest to the respondents that what they feel is not actually violence, or it's violence. It's not within the scope of what we did, and that will also require ethical consideration. And more importantly, you notice that the age group we covered, that the survey covered, starts from 13, between 13 and 24. And that is also for ethical reasons. So it's not um, for ethical reason. A lot of questions or approaches to capturing or understanding violence children or young people face may not be in place. Yes, so that's it.
And it just give us an indication of the how long these effects can actually carry on for if they're not treated.
Okay, maybe I should just explain what this uh, violence means per se. Uh, it's just basic, or not basic now, where maybe in the African context where some violence may be normalized. For example, emotional violence is something like verbal and non-verbal uh, approach to children or to young people, like something like you are not loved, or ridicule, or feeling isolated. Those are the things that constitute it. So and it may be a transfer of maybe aggression, or anger from parents, or from adults in the society. And also physical violence, it covers beating, punching, kicking, and also to extent of using hard objects to inflict pain on the young people. And sexual violence is also it's also covered areas such as forced sex, and unsolicited touching around that measurement. So these are events that were covered in the questionnaire, and you can know that they are also something that we can relate with when we look at the society at large. And what our analysis has done is to see if exposure to political violence actually uh, increase the risk in the society, and that is what we found.
How do you think these findings might help in terms of shaping future peace building and child protection efforts?
Yes, like I said, it's political violence that increased violence within home. It shows that violence beget violence, if I use that phrase, meaning that if violence within home, or political violence, is not curtailed or reduced or stopped, that means that it can increase. It's also an input to further political violence, because uh, the extreme end of emotional violence is substance abuse, is and substance abuse can also trigger violence, so it leads to perpetration of violence. So what this means is that um, intervention to reduce violence, political violence, also means that interpersonal violence is also reduced within the home, within a community, in schools and everywhere young children find themselves.
If there's a message that you want to send to policymakers and the international community to take away from this study, what would that message be?
Yeah, I would say that that the consequences of political violence last longer than when the fighting stops, and this is preventive. This is preventable. Two things stands out, and that should be done. From our study, it is suggestive. There's a suggestive evidence that cash transfer to poorer household may reduce young people's vulnerability to sexual exploitation that is triggered by political violence. And what that means is that the money spent on social protection may achieve far more than what it was given credit for, and that should encourage, and that should be encouraged. That social protection is actually violence prevention itself. And lastly, I would say that our studies, by putting together two different data from violence against children and political violence data, uh, has innovatively put into use those two data to providing this evidence, and such will encourage the participating countries to to do more of data on violence against children across Africa, because the truth is, when that's we say that the truth is that you cannot protect children from the harms that cannot be measured. So evidence like this measure what type of harm, and it provides the policymaker the direction to invest on children, on child protection and safeguarding. Thank you.
Yeah, this is fascinating, and I
Yeah,
guess you've done 9 countries, but it's probably
yeah.
enough to get a picture of the continent generally. Anecdotally, perhaps, have you seen evidence that other countries likely follow the same patterns?
Yes, by bringing together 9 countries in sub-Saharan Africa, that shows that which is about 30% of sub-Saharan Africa uh, countries. That shows that there are countries that we have similar characteristics or similar to these 9 countries. So the same evidence can also be applied to them, but we did not do country level, country specific analysis, and that is another aspect of research that should be done.
Dr. Fadare, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much
Thank you.
indeed for the work that you're doing and this insightful report. And let's hope that it lands on the right desks to make meaningful interventions.
Thank you so much.
That was Dr. Olusegun Fadare, lecturer in development economics at the University of Greenwich, and also the co author of a new study examining how the long term effects of political violence continue to shape the lives of children and young people across 9 African countries. And I think it's representative of the continent at large. It's 8